On Friday, Minister for Enterprise Peter Burke met with representatives from the fuel industry to discuss some of his concerns surrounding alleged price gouging. He's urged consumers to report any instances of price gouging they believe to be going on to the Consumer Protection Commission. As we would have seen, of course, CEO of Fuels Ireland, Kevin McPartland, insists that this is not taking place. But despite this, most consumers will have seen that the average price of a litre of petrol or diesel, even from Friday into Saturday, jumped by 30 cent per litre. I know I certainly topped up my car midway through last week. I paid about 170 for a litre of diesel, and that climbed to 193 on Sunday. For home heating oil, it's much more of a shock. Only last week we would have seen that in many places you could get 1,000 litres of kerosene for €900. The price now, according to irishfuels.ie, is €1,600 on average across the country. So do we have an element of price gouging taking place at our pumps? For more on this, I'm joined by the manager of O'Sullivan and Hansbury Garage in Ennis, Kieran Hogan. Kieran, you're very welcome to the programme.
Good morning, how are you? I'm
very good, Kieran. Kieran, I'd imagine for you, for your staff over the last couple of days, you've probably been on the end of some undeserving criticism. How much control do you and your business have over setting the price at the pump?
Well, we have absolutely no control over the costs at the pumps. We get direction from CERTA, who are our suppliers, and we just implement the changes that they set down.
And I'm sure a lot of people would have felt that, given the sudden change, they would have thought there's no way that even many of these stations can be out of their current stocks to justify putting the prices up like that. Would you say that's a fair concern that maybe some consumers would have brought to you?
One or two people have said it to me, all right, but we've deliveries twice a week. So, we had a delivery on Wednesday and we had another delivery on Thursday. And even in those 2 days, the cost of fuel skyrocketed.
And an interesting point, I suppose, to remind listeners of, and they've got their finger on the pulse today, because we've got this messaging straight away, was last week, of course, Micheál Martin stated that we shouldn't be seeing any price shocks because Irish state gets its petrol, diesel and oil from the North Sea, which of course is controlled by Norway, so we shouldn't see the backlash of this. Eugene Drennan, the Deputy President of the Irish Road Haulage Association, speaking to our news team last week, countered this and said that, well, actually, because many of the global superpowers such as China and more rely on Iran and the Persian Gulf for their fuel supply, they're going to look to the other markets such as the North Sea, and that would create essentially your supply and demand pressure. So I'm sure that's something maybe you'd like to remind anybody coming to your counter about.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we don't really have to remind customers, because customers are very well informed, and they're watching the news, they listen to the radio, so they're well aware of the situation.
And Kieran, do you even have many options yourself to shop around? I know you said you get the instructions from your provider, but do you have any recourse even to maybe find out where you can get a cheaper deal or price compare?
No, we're tied into a trading agreement with CERTA, so our hands are tied at the moment anyway.
What advice would you give to consumers? Would you say maybe fill up straight away in case things get volatile? Is there any, I suppose, manageable steps that they can take?
It's very difficult to say because they're volatile times at the moment. I don't want to start, craze people panic buying, but at the moment the prices are going to continue to rise as far as I can see.
Yeah, and have you noticed any new habits from consumers? And maybe even, I suppose, at times you would have seen similar shocks back in 2022. Does any bit of behaviour tend to change?
Well, last week we had a lot of people just doing a big fill. Today now, they're coming in and they're only probably just topping up now at the moment. Back in 22, something similar, all right, but again, the government were slow to act in reducing the excise at the time. I think we had to wait something like nearly 3 months before they implemented any cost to the excise tax, and now we have the carbon tax on top of that as well, so it all adds up.
And I'm sure that's something that might make service station providers pull their hair out at times, is that while you might hear the backlash yourself, as Eugene Drenton again pointed out to us last week, and many of their listeners are with their texts, is that over €1 per litre of fuel now is currently going directly in taxation, whether that's for the National Oil Reserve Fee, whether that's for carbon tax, whether that's for excise duty and more. Should the government be doing a bit more here?
I think the government should have been proactive. They knew this was coming last week, so I think they should have been putting something in place even for this week to try and just calm things down a bit.
And I suppose what the government has said in recent years, maybe in the past even when we've seen this, is that sometimes it might not be right to act too soon because it could get worse. I mean, I suppose as we saw back in 2022, we saw at times the price of petrol and diesel could even go as high as 208, 210. So maybe you have the right to say, look, we'll observe it for now and maybe we'll act in the future.
I think the government know what's happening. I think they're well aware. I think they're just very slow to act. In my opinion, anyway.
And that's, I suppose, not just a frustration for customers, but it must be one for you as well, Kieran, because I'm sure you want to reassure people as best you can.
Of course. Like, as I said earlier, our customers are very well aware of the price at the pumps. They shop around. In 2022, we had a lot of people complaining, but this time around, they seem to be almost sympathetic towards us because they know that we're not doing anything, or we can't do anything at the moment. And
I know, Kieran, your station deals in petrol and diesel and fuel for your vehicle, but home heating oil as well, I think, is the one which has really disturbed people, the price hike there. And I suppose, look, just even as I'm sure homeowner yourself, that's something on a personal level that you have to deal with as well. Is that something that gave you a bit of a fright when you saw the prices going up?
Oh, definitely. We were lucky that we actually filled at the start of February because we actually ran out. But I know there's people here working with us and that tried to order fuel last week, and it was going it was going up every morning. And even when they had it ordered, they didn't know the price they were going to get it at until it was delivered.
Yeah, and it's bizarre, really, that we do have to, I suppose, depend on events in the rest of the world to see what our oil prices are going to be. And I suppose that kind of gives rise to the expression glocal, that although the Middle East may be on the other side of the world, it's still very much affecting our local economy. And as we've heard the college industry say in recent weeks as well, is that anytime something is even delivered to a store or supermarket, it comes off the back of a truck. So do you think we can expect increases in, I suppose, the price of groceries as well? Because look at it, if the haulage industry is paying more for its food, if that truck has to get to your service station to deliver its pallet of bread, be it flour, eggs, milk, whatever it is, are we likely to see the hikes across the board?
I think that has to happen because transport companies are going to just pass on their costs. And eventually the cost of products are going to go up. So shops are going to have to increase the prices of their products as well, because otherwise they're going to be making a loss.
And it's really not a nice position to put store owners and managers like yourself in. We really just have to hope that this doesn't continue for a lengthy period. But I mean, it really comes down to it. Like the elephant in the room is, are we going to see supports if it does?
Well, I hope we do see supports. I think the government, like I said earlier, should have been proactive on this. They obviously had the transport industry up last week. They should have been reassuring them that they were going to act at some stage, but we haven't heard anything as of yet.
Yeah, and we do have to hope that events there stabilise, and we are all watching them very closely. And like, even we've seen today that Iran has elected a new supreme leader. Elected might not be the right word there, but has certainly selected a new supreme leader, which is now Mujtaba Khamenei, the son of the previous Ayatollah. And by that indication, we could be looking at a couple of more weeks at least of Iran digging their heels in, probably an ongoing conflict here.
I think so, and it will impact on fuel because, as you know yourself, it's very quick to go up and it's a little bit slower to come back down. to what it was before any conflicts.
Yeah, and Kieran, I think the last one I'll put you before we go is you might be able to give a bit of clarity to this listener who's just sent a text into us. This listener is of the opinion that there is definitely price gouging going on. I won't say where exactly, but basically the price of diesel was 189.9 in Clare over the weekend, and this listener says when they came back 2 hours later, it went up to 192.9 yesterday evening. So a difference of 4 cents there. This listener claims in the space of 2 hours. Is that something that can happen?
See, prices that fluctuate every day, and it might have had a delivery on Sunday that might have been at a higher price than what they had predicted. But as I said, our prices are dictated by our supplier, Certa. So they send us down updates every morning, or even in the afternoon in some places. So I don't think there's any kind of price gouging going on. It's just the fact that the market is like that at the moment.
I suppose just finally, Kieran, is there anything the industry needs right now to help it through this period?
As I said earlier on, the government could have been proactive on this. They could have reduced the excise rate as they did back in 2022. It took them 3 months to take any action. The last time, they knew this was coming. They could have had something in place already, just to ease it for everybody, because it's the ordinary person in the street that's been hit.
Kieran Hogan, the manager of O'Sullivan and Hansbury filling station on the Kilrush Road. Kieran, thank you very much for joining us in Morning Focus today.
No problem at all. Thank you. All the best.